the best of money matters. Under the radar.
You're listening to Money FM 89.3, and it's now time for a special on-the-go episode of Under the Radar with me, Chua Tian Tian. Now, earlier this year, we shared with you that we'll be bringing you some of the on-the-ground reporting of key business events, launches, features, or developers' days under the Under the Radar Specials banner. And now I'm fulfilling the promise we made by bringing you insights from a key business event that is said to be the equivalent of, get this, a Taylor Swift concert in the world of finance. And yes, I'm talking about insights from the 2025 Berkshire Hathaway Shareholders Meeting held in Omaha in the US on the 3rd of May. Now, you might have by now figured that I traveled about 50 hours just to catch a glimpse of Berkshire's chairman Warren Buffett at the start of the month. And yes, I paid for all the expenses and took a week of vacation leave just for this one. But hey, I'm not there at Berkshire's AGM alone. There is someone who's equally interested in the nuggets of financial wisdom the Oracle of Omaha has to offer. And he is none other than Willie Keng, founder of DividendTitan.com. And Willie joins me right here in the studio. Willie, welcome. What a trip.
Thank you, Tian Tian, for getting me on the show again.
And you know what? It turned out to be perhaps one of the most important shareholders meetings in Buffett's career, as he announced his intention to retire and for Vice Chair Greg Abel to succeed him by year end. Have a listen to this one.
Greg should become the chief executive officer of the company at year end.
All right, Willie, any thoughts on that?
I mean, this has been the most surprising so far for the trip to Berkshire Hathaway AGM. I mean, I would have never expected Warren Buffett to actually announce it so quickly. I mean, he is 94 years old, and a lot of people are speculating on his retirement. But, you know, Charlie Munger passed on at about 99 years old.
Yeah.
So there could be still a long way to go.
The runway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this sort of brings me to the point that, hey, you know, on one hand, it seems like surprising, but on the other hand, if you think about it, you know, I think this is also Warren Buffett trying to think about a smooth transition to retiring the reins to his managers.
I really just wasn't expecting it because he announced this 5 minutes till the end of the Q&A session. But first, let's hold on to our excitement because the Berkshire Hathaway Shareholder Meeting is an annual affair for financial geeks, so there is obviously a lot to unpack and we want to do that systematically. So here's how we'll structure this conversation to streamline things for our listener. So first, this conversation will be played out in 3 parts: today, tomorrow, and the day after. So there will be 3 major topics discussed throughout the conversation. Number 1 is actually getting to the Berkshire Shareholder Meeting in Omaha. The second has got to do with the key highlights from the event. And the third one, the peripheral events or activities you can take part in as a Berkshire Hathaway shareholder. Now, before we begin, here's a quick disclaimer that Willie and I are shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway, and I, in fact, bought shares for the purpose of attending this event in my personal capacity. So without further ado, let's begin. So, Willie, let's go back to where it all started by looking at why we wanted to attend this year's event. I mean, you are the dividend titan. Berkshire doesn't give out dividends despite its huge cash pile. And yet, it is not your first time attending the shareholder meeting. You were there last year as well. What made you decide to attend this year?
I mean, to be honest, Tian Tian, I didn't actually want to go again this year because it was actually a bucket list which was ticked off last year. And I was thinking maybe I could just watch the live session online. However, I think my wife actually we had this conversation with my wife one night, and she was saying, you know, Warren Buffett is already 94 years old. And
exactly.
she asked me this question, Willie, how many more times can you actually attend an AGM like this? And that really sparked me this idea that, hey, it is true because I have been reading Warren Buffett since I started investing. I got inspired by him when my cousin gave me a book called The Essential Buffett, and I was hooked by financial markets and his principles ever since. So making this trip down to the AGM this year, you know, was something which ticked the checkbox for me. And, you know, long before I know it, I've just booked my flight tickets to Omaha and visiting the AGM and meeting you there yourself as well.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, some of the people who, you know, actually spoke at the Q&A, some of the attendees actually said that it was their 7th year attending and so on and so forth. But for myself, I actually attended the meeting with my mother, who is also a shareholder, and we just happened to talk about Warren Buffett and Berkshire one day. And like what you said, we talked about Buffett's best friend and working partner, Charlie Munger, and how he wasn't around in last year's meeting. So I think there was this video that was circulating on social media where Buffett accidentally called Greg Abel as Charlie. Right? He said he checked himself multiple times, but that got the conversation started. So it sort of dawned on us that if you want to see Buffett in action, probably this is the best time to go. And, it turned out to be true anyway in retrospect. But another reason is this year marks 60 years since the present management took control of Berkshire Hathaway. 60 whole years since Berkshire began the transition from a small textile firm into this $1 trillion market cap conglomerate. So back to the point, an important time to attend the meeting indeed. So let's talk about getting there, right, Willie? Getting to Omaha, getting the tickets to the shareholder meeting. I recalled it was it last December when I actually called you to ask for some advice on getting started because I know you went last year. And the first thing you told me to do was not to try and get tickets to the shareholder meeting itself, but try to secure your air tickets and hotel. Why was that the case?
First of all, Tian Tian, I was really excited when you called because
yes.
I was just as excited. And I think at the end of the day, when you're making such a long trip there, I mean, for us, it's 25 hours from Singapore all the way to Omaha. Personally, I had to make 2 layovers, and it was quite tiring for me. But this means that, there's a lot of inertia trying to make a decision. Personally, for me, booking the air tickets means that you're taking the one small step to visiting the Oracle of Omaha. And, this is something which is not to be missed. And once you actually get the flight tickets all settled, everything else just falls into place naturally. I mean, it's really like just booking a holiday trip. Once you get the flight tickets in, you are more or less fixed or certain, and you sort of convince yourself that you have to go. No choice, because you already paid for the air tickets. You cannot just cancel it like this.
But what about the tickets to the shareholder event itself? You mentioned that there are several ways that you can actually get the tickets. One is through a broker and the filling up of the proxy form, which obviously takes a couple of weeks to get through, right?
So there's one way to actually get access to the shareholders meeting. I mean, if you are a shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway, you can simply just get your broker to pass you a form, you fill it up, and you get Berkshire Hathaway to send you the physical copy of the tickets. However, if you're not a shareholder, you can still attend. I mean, if you look at Warren Buffett, after all, he is more than happy to share his teachings even with non-shareholders. So what you do is you can always request tickets on the day itself. That means, you can walk up to any friendly shareholders and request for a ticket saying that, hey, I don't have a ticket. Is it okay? You can pass me one? Because all shareholders are entitled to 4 tickets. So I'm pretty sure you can get the extras. And on top of that, what's interesting, Tian Tian, I mean, I'm a shareholder for many different listed companies, but being a shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway is pretty interesting because the shareholders and investors you typically meet, they all tend to be very kind. They all tend to be very nice as well.
Okay, now it's not just about getting all the paperwork done beforehand. The journey itself was a very tiring one. You mentioned you had 2 layovers, I believe was it in San Fran and Denver?
So I stopped over once in San Francisco, and then after that, I took a flight to Denver. So it was really rushed for me, especially everything's all packed.
You know what? I had a very long transit in San Francisco because I flew just to San Fran and then to Omaha. And here's a recording I did upon arriving in Omaha. It's the 2nd of May at about 10 a.m. local time. I'm right here in my hotel room in Omaha. And I just want to share a bit more about the journey to Omaha and to the shareholder meeting. So it's all in about a 25-hour journey. We started off from Singapore. We took a 15-hour plane ride all the way to San Francisco. And at San Francisco, we had about 7 to 8 hours of transit time before we took a flight again, a 3-hour flight from San Francisco to Omaha. So that's about the journey to Omaha. And from our airport in Omaha, we had about a 15-minute taxi ride all the way to our hotel, which is fairly near the CHI Health Center where the shareholder meeting is held. Now, the journey back, we're flying back from New York. So from New York back to Singapore is a plane ride of about 21 hours and 55 minutes with a transit in Frankfurt. So we're quite literally flying around the world for this shareholder meeting. But hey, Willie, don't we agree that despite the long traveling time, right, the experience made up for it because there were a lot of things to look forward to even ahead of the event, or what we call day 1 of the shareholders meeting. And that was the shareholder shopping day held on the 2nd of May. So Buffett actually gave us a tip in his shareholder letter on what is in store. And in his words, he said, The offerings will lighten your wallet and brighten your day. And I think Buffett's right, because my wallet's pretty light at the end of the shopping day. And one of the things in store for sale was the one and only book available this year titled 60 Years of Berkshire Hathaway. I know you did a fair share of shopping as well. Let's have a listen to this one. After queuing for about 5 minutes and going through a couple of security checks, we were led into the exhibition hall, or the official shopping area. Now, I made a beeline to the See's Candies booth. Berkshire Hathaway bought See's Candies in 1972, and Warren Buffett is said to love peanut brittle and its chocolate walnut fudge. As I explored the exhibition hall, I found this life-sized Squishmallow mascot, as well as a booth presented by private jet operator NetJets. There was much excitement at the Squishmallow booth. The Squishmallow's parent company, Jazzwares, for context, became part of Warren Buffett's sprawling conglomerate at the end of 2022. And Squishmallow's popularity was clearly evident given the long lines seen at the event. Next, we had to stop by Dairy Queen, a company that Berkshire bought in 1997 for some chocolate dilly bar, before moving on to check on some souvenirs at the Oriental Trading, which sells arts and crafts like the Warren bobblehead figurine. But aside from shopping, we also popped by the BNSF Railway booth. BNSF Railway is one of Berkshire's largest purchases. The firm completed the roughly $26.4 billion purchase in early 2010. Thereafter, my mother decided to queue for a Squishmallow on my behalf, while Willie and I headed to a booth called the Bookworm. All right, Willie, we just queued 15-20 minutes for something. What did we queue for?
Well, we queued for the 60th anniversary Berkshire Hathaway book, and this is a special only for this AGM. And it's amazing because this contains all the entire history of Berkshire Hathaway as a business, as a company. And, I want to keep it for memory's sake.
Right, I've got a copy myself as well. It's in a plastic bag. Yeah, can't wait to read this on my flight back. And it is now time to head back to the Squishmallow booth to find my mother. And my mum queued 30 minutes just to get me this Squishmallow. All right, Willie, what did you buy aside from that book?
I bought a couple of things like t-shirts. So right now, what I'm wearing is the Omaha, Nebraska t-shirt, and I love it because it's my favorite blue color. And this is something which I like. Last year, I also had the same, roughly the same design, also the same color as well. I also got the Warren Buffett bogglehead, which I actually put it on my office desk. So this is actually it's really funny because, Warren Buffett, the thing about him is he's an investor, but at the same time, he has this very folksy-like kind of image, which brings a smile to you. I mean, in all seriousness in financial markets, I think it's not common, to see fund managers or investors having always a smile.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we are both wearing Omaha shirts today, Omaha t-shirts, and you got a bobblehead. I actually brought it to studio today. We'll take photos with that later on. So exciting, but I'm just going to stop you right here before we move on to part 2 of our conversation on highlights from the meeting, just to pique our listeners' interest. And stay tuned to the conversation coming up tomorrow. Once again, Willie Keng, founder, DividendTitan.com. And that was an on-the-go special of Under the Radar with insights from Berkshire Hathaway 2025 Shareholder Meeting in Omaha. I'm Chua Tian Tian.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.